Mayday, Mayday, we've hit the month of May. It's the FOX6 Sports Blitz. Brewers were saying that until today. We also have the Bucks to talk about and the Packers. We have Brand Cruz in-house, Willie Zhao in-house. I'm Tim Van Voorn. We're glad you're in-house. Here's our starting lineup. Bucks outpaced and out of the NBA playoffs. That sets up what could be a defining offseason for the franchise. A rookie Packer makes us say what as the draftees make and get their first impressions in Green Bay. Plus, we check in on the Diamond Life for our latest high school hotshot.
Do you think that you can still win that second championship here in Milwaukee after a third straight first-round exit?
Look, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I know how this is going to go. Whatever I say, I know how it's going to translate. I don't know, man. I wish I was still playing. I wish I was still like competing and going back to Milwaukee. I don't know.
As the Bucks go down.
Just making sure we're hearing everybody. We couldn't hear.
Gotcha. Oh, thank you.
You got
Very good. All right, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I appreciate the assistance here. Everybody does need to be locked in on things. As the Bucks go down to the Indiana Pacers, you were there, Brandon, at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Very simple question. Do you go into this offseason regarding Giannis's potential future with the Bucks any differently than previous offseasons?
I'm going to give you a yes and a maybe. Basically what it is you have to make sure he is comfortable with what your plan is if you plan on keeping him. So by doing that, yes, you go into it the way you have in the past because you want him to understand that this team is still one that can vie for a championship. Now, if you think that that is not the case, then you might not worry about what he wants and you worry about what you need. And that means finding out what's the best offer you can get for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, he doesn't seem to be the guy right now that wants out. He's never said anything to the effect of wanting out, but I do think that's the quandary the Bucks find themselves in. Can they vie for a championship? They keep him. If they don't think they can, then they move on.
So I'll let you follow that, Lily.
I think it'll be interesting to see what the Bucks do in terms of their conversations with Giannis, just to get a gauge of what he wants to do himself. And it will be interesting to see if Giannis is willing to, next year without Damian Lillard, kind of shoulder the load once again to help a team that probably won't be contending for a championship as much as, the Bucks hopefully were the last couple of years. Does he want to carry a younger team, and does he kind of want to carry a team that's not going to be rebuilding, but there's going to be a lot of new pieces around him? Does he want to take on that onus as the face of the franchise if he stays in Milwaukee and without Damian Lillard, who tore his Achilles? There are a lot of questions there because after he went down, it was the ultimate, is Giannis staying or is Giannis going? So without Damian Lillard, who will be out most of next season, his trade value also is in jeopardy as well. He's going to be an older player, and there were talks that if Dame had stayed healthier, would he and the Bucks part ways if, again, they were not going to be working out in the postseason? So a lot of questions do surround the Bucks' two stars, but I feel for Giannis Antetokounmpo, to reiterate what Brandon said, has never said he wants out, has never said, I want to be traded. So that holds a lot of weight with the Bucks front office. And, of course, what he wants to do, where he sees himself in the future, of course, will be very important.
And the man who will make the decision, at least theoretically, is the president and the basketball man, the general manager, John Horst, who got a contract extension here at the tail end of the regular season, going into the playoffs. This is a crossroads offseason, at least it could be.
It very much so is. I mean, because he does get that extension. So this is his job now that he has to figure out. He built that championship team. He gets all the credit for that, and he should. He did so much to bring that team here in 2021. The team has been snake bit since, with injuries in the postseason each of the 3 years after. So what you have to look at now is, can he turn the corner with very few draft picks, and can he entice enough of talent to come to Milwaukee to keep this as a championship level team? So to me, the pressure is on him, but the team ownership rewarded him. Therefore, now it's his job to turn things around.
And how much will ownership influence whatever decisions are made by John Horst, too? Certainly a situation there. All right, let's talk about the actual basketball of the week. And, boy, the Bucks gave it one heck of an effort, Lily, the other night. But Not enough.
Not enough. And it just was, I would say, heartbreaking. I think a lot of people were saying maybe they wouldn't have won the series, but the way the Bucks had played to really hold themselves and play into overtime and have an 7-8 point lead with 40 seconds left, and they give it away because of turnovers, that is demoralizing. I know that really hurt the Bucks. And just what they wanted to do was to, win Game 5, bring Game 6 back to Milwaukee. Giannis Antetokounmpo said he was disappointed they couldn't win for Dame. They wanted to win this game for Dame, and they could not get it done. But it was their breakdowns late in overtime that really sealed the deal against a Pacers team. Yeah, they know how to chirp, but they have taken it to the Bucks the last 2 years in the first round. So a disappointing finish for the Bucks, third straight first-round exit. Giannis Antetokounmpo talked at the start of the season he didn't really want to do this again, but alas, this is where the Bucks are. This is the reality. Season over after another first-round exit.
And the Pacers get a win in the first game of the next round today against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So maybe don't sleep on those Pacers. Perhaps a little bit better than people were expecting in a tougher matchup for the Bucks. You were there for the John Halliburton Giannis deal. I know you weren't really focusing on that. You were also there to see Gary Trent throw in those shots and then make two absolutely debilitating turnovers at the end of the game. He's a free agent. Do you expect him back in Milwaukee?
I do. He talked like he wants to be here. He said something about, this will change next year. So he was talking like a guy who wanted to be here. And if you listen to the way Doc Rivers talked about him and his contributions, there was the Gary Trent game, the one they did win in Game 3. Game 5 was going to be the Gary Trent game, and it kind of was for the wrong reason. He had 8 second-half threes. 4 of those were in overtime, but those 2 key turnovers. He's a guy, though, that knows Dame. He's a guy that can step up and deliver. I expect them to really make a run to keep him here.
Will be an interesting offseason. Who stays, who goes, how much the roster does change. All right, let's change what we're talking about and go to the Milwaukee Brewers, who started this week against the Chicago team, finished this week against the Chicago team. Had some ups and downs in the midst of all of it, Lily.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. A lot of ups and downs, and luckily on Sunday they ended up with a lot of ups, and that was a lot of positives, right? Freddie Peralta taking the mound. The Brewers take advantage of Shota Imanaga going down, and they put together a 4-run inning late to seal the win and shut out the Cubs. This was a much-needed win, guys. I think, manager Pat Murphy was saying he felt his team lost their edge. They lost their edge, which is interesting to think about because that's just how this team played all of last season. So I think a win like this, despite the fact that the Cubs did lose their starting pitcher, I think this really helps them moving forward. That they had to salvage one game in this series. Can't get swept by the Cubs at home.
Sal Frelick's an edge kind of player, Brandon. He pushes things, and he had to leave today's game. What do we know? How big is this?
Yeah, he took a swing and hurt his knee, and they had to take him out, and now they're just waiting on imaging to see how badly his knee is injured. It's his left knee, and obviously this team cannot afford to have any more injuries anywhere on the field, let alone in the outfield. And from a guy that was hitting .299 going into this game, he's been clutch both defensively and offensively, and he's been a real catalyst. So to see him go down like this really, really hurts them if he's going to be out for any significant amount of time. The only silver lining of this is Daz Cameron came in and gets his first hit ever as a Brewer, and in front of his dad. And it was huge because it drove in 2 runs, and that was a big deal for the Brewers.
I don't think Daz quite has the sway yet to get the guys to untuck the shirts.
Right.
Job well done, the old Mike Cameron move. While we're talking about outfield injuries, Garrett Mitchell's situation, they need him back. He's making some progress.
Making some progress, of course, was on the IL about a week ago, but dealing with a left oblique injury. So it's just kind of tough to see. We were talking about the outfield, center field really being a position of strength for the Brewers, and just due to a lot of injuries at that spot. Of course, Garrett Mitchell and Sal Frelick and Blake Perkins earlier, it's just been tough sledding there, but hopefully they can get him back soon and progressing well, because with the injury of Sal Frelick, depending on what the severity is of it, they're going to need Garrett Mitchell back and more.
Yeah, more. All right, let's talk about a guy who is getting closer to coming back. That's Brandon Woodruff, who's way ahead of the big picture schedule. Now it's kind of zeroing in on these rehab starts and get him back. How big would he be emotionally and just tangentially?
Oh, I think huge, right? Not that there's, heart and soul, and I think there's a lot of those guys that kind of are present in the Brewers clubhouse, but I feel like Brandon Woodruff is one of those heart and soul guys for this team, and he just was talking about just how emotional he was just getting on the mound here at the Timber Rattlers to pitch, and the fact that he's been able to progress thus far after having surgery. So, I think he has one rehab have a start on Tuesday, maybe another one before potentially the big leagues is up next for him. But he was at the ballpark over the weekend, looked in great spirits, just talked about just how fun it was to be back on the mound and pitching for these guys. And hopefully his return is in the next couple of weeks.
It was a long season, Brand. 162 games. You're going to have some ups. Lily talked about it. You're going to have some ups. You're going to have some downs. Boy, there were 2 flat back-to-back games. Just flat as they could be.
They go into Chicago and lose 8-0 to the White Sox to end that series after they had played well against one of the worst teams in baseball. But there was no offensive punch. In fact, in that game, it looked as if they had an early lead because it was going to be a no, that was the Cubs game. But put it this way, the Brewers bats were silent in those games, and they couldn't do anything. And it goes to what Pat Murphy was saying, if they're not playing with an edge, they still don't seem to have it. Even today, Pat Murphy liked what he saw in the 6th inning. He liked what he saw from Freddie Peralta, but he's saying they still don't have an edge. So they have back-to-back shutouts and losses to the White Sox and the Cubs. And today, with the exception of the 6th inning, they didn't score any other runs.
And some of your so-called thumpers are just not thumping. William Contreras is getting some hits, but they're not extra base hits.
And Christian Yelich snapped an 0-for-19 streak.
Absolutely right. So that's a big thing here.
Yeah.
We do want to mention A.J. Bluebaugh gets his Major League debut this week for the Houston Astros, only the second UWM baseball program product to do that. He's with the Houston Astros, who come to Milwaukee, but he's sent back down to the minors. So he's not coming in this trip, though. Congratulations to A.J. Bluebaugh. Hey, before we do get out on this segment, though, life goes on for the Antetokounmpos and in their household. And this is more important than anything. Giannis and his wife, Mariah, proud parents for the 4th time, announcing the arrival of a new baby girl on social media this week. Hearty congratulations to as family-oriented folks as you can find. Keep it here on The Blitz.
What's peaking?
To answer your question, I can't really answer your question.
And like peak?
Where do you get to go when other people are actually interested in what you got to say?
I can say Yakachonis a lot easier than I can say Hamakars.
We'll stop there.
I just got some chocolate from the guy that did my pick, the German guy. He gave me some. He said the best chocolate in Germany. I can't read it, so I'm gonna Google Translate all this after this. But this is awesome. It's so hard being in front of these cameras, man. Like I just when I see the cameras, I just freeze up. It's hard for me, bro. It's really hard. I don't like this shirt. I didn't have to go get a journalism degree. No knock on you guys. No knock.
No knock, Kevin, no knock. You were there. Did you feel like it was a knock?
I didn't feel like it was a knock. I felt like, hey, Warren Brinson, thanks for being comfortable. Thanks for being yourself. Welcome to Green Bay.
He did seem comfortable in his skin. You were up there throughout the draft and then for the rookie orientation camp. What are your impressions of this group for this first time kind of seeing them as professionals?
Brian Gutekunst said that he really felt this was a group that had an addition to the culture, that it will fit well in Green Bay. Matt LaFleur was going on the same note. He said, I don't know these guys well, but I really feel like it's a winning group. So that's the vibe up there. It's positive to me that the staging is still coming down for the draft. There's construction right now at Lambeau Field. The locker room's under construction. These guys have to be walking in like, what in the world is going on? But nobody's complaining. Everybody's like focused like, hey, this is cool. And that is the vibe.
What do you think it matters to the guys that are maybe coming from the same program? A couple of guys from Texas. So they had that commonality going to this new place and this new experience together.
I think this is great. I mean, you're talking about Matthew Golden and Barron Sorrell, the 2 guys from Texas. Packers drafting 2 Longhorns in the draft this year. I think it really helps them, right? They know each other, they root for each other, and it just adds a level of comfortability when you are going to a new city and a new team. And the nice part is, like we talked about, these guys were both in Green Bay for the draft, so they got to experience both of each other, getting drafted, and that's just a nice bond to have. But now they kind of get to see what the rest of the draft class looks like. And their bond together as Texas Longhorns is going to be fun to watch for years to come. And these guys just seem like 2 high-character guys ready to go to work, ready to contribute to the Packers. So I think it's great.
And Tim, did it seem like these guys were pretty close from their time in Texas to here?
Yeah, actually, their relationship goes well back. Savion Williams is into that mix as well. He's a wide receiver from TCU, and he hosted Matthew Golden on a recruiting visit. So you've got these 2 guys who played together at Texas, and also a connection with Savion Williams going back predating college.
What does it do for that group when there are those connections before everything really gets going?
I think to follow up on what Lily was saying, it does help. There's no question. It gives you a comfort zone. If you're a little curious about something, you've got somebody you trust that you can ask the questions to. So I think that the Packers always do a good job of getting everybody oriented anyway, but if you have some other folks in there that you can connect with right off, that has to help.
A big question right now is, where's Jair Alexander going to be? He was part of their Zoom meetings, but he doesn't show up in person when they had other activities. What does that say to you?
It says that they're still trying to figure it out, right? That's kind of been the overwhelming theme in the offseason. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out, a way to move this forward, and it seems like both sides are still willing to do that. I think there are reports out there that say that Jair Alexander and his team kind of want to figure out what his current situation will be before the offseason program does fully begin in the summer. But listen, the Packers, they're not going to trade away Jair Alexander for nothing, right? So they're very open about the fact that they've been talking to teams about him, but they also realize they have a good player in their fold. So can they make things work? If they do, post-injury, Jair Alexander, as we all know, is a really talented cornerback. So if you lose him, you do have the production back there. Do you like what you have at with Nate Hobbs and company in your newest draft pick? So you kind of want to see what the Packers are able to do with Jair, and in the future right now is still to be determined. But as we've heard all offseason, they're working it out.
We talked about this right after the regular season. Is he coming back or no?
I would say yes. I'm optimistic at this point.
I'm still in the no camp. They're not going to trade away for nothing. They may have to give him away for nothing, though, depending on how it plays out. What do you think?
I don't think he's coming back. I think they've stretched it out long enough to say this isn't going to work. Otherwise, they would have done it. But time will tell.
He's still on the roster.
He is at this
Never say
point.
never.
That's true. Well, in the Central Division semifinals in hockey, the AHL, the Milwaukee Admirals find themselves in an 0-2 hole to the Rockford Ice Hogs. The Avs losing both games at home. They face a must-win Game 3 on Wednesday. That's in Rockford. It's only a best-of-5, so they have no more room for error. We'll see what happens. We'll be right back, though, with our high school hotshot. You don't want to miss this guy.
Welcome back. The senior has quite the story. He throws 4 different pitches that make him a menace on the mound, and he also has an interesting nemesis at the dinner table. Here's this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
My name is Ethan Bauerschmidt. I'm a senior here at Tremper High School, and I'm a 2-sport athlete. So I play baseball and basketball. Yep, baseball definitely leads the way for me. Yeah, I've played baseball ever since I was 4 years old. It's always been my passion. Being here in Wisconsin, winters are cold and you got to train indoor all winter. So the second you can get out in the spring season, in the summer season, it's just awesome. Yeah, we're off to a hot start. The boys are playing well. The team we have this year, I think we have a shot to do something great. Putting a banner on the wall that will forever stay there would be awesome. Yeah, I'm a shortstop and pitcher. I actually first started getting Division I offers as a hitter and an infielder. I had a pretty big jump my sophomore year winter on the mound and learned how to spin it, learned how to throw the ball pretty well. That's when college just started getting interested with me, not only at the plate, but on the mound. Coming in the fall, I'm committed to go to Penn State University right now. It's awesome. That playing at a Division I level and getting that scholarship was, dreams come true. I want to be a major league pitcher one day. I want to win a World Series and play for a team and compete. Yeah, the month of April's been great. I've been throwing it pretty well. Threw a no-hitter against Kenosha Bradford. That was awesome. Yeah, I've had a couple no-hitters for summer ball. But yeah, I think this was my first high school no-hitter, which was pretty cool. Where I play travel ball at Hitters, you actually get to go the whole summer in a van with your team and just the coach. We took a van down to Alabama, Kansas City, Indiana. We went over to California. So I've been a lot of places for baseball. Yeah, it's a lot of traveling in the summer, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. Something that's actually pretty funny, not a lot of people know, is I'm allergic to peanuts. And everywhere I go, people always offer me how to get stronger and bigger. I need peanut butter. It's just kind of an elephant in the room when we're there. It's pretty funny. I did fight it out the hard way. I was young though, and I've been pretty good ever since. My name is Ethan Bauerschmidt. I go to Kenosha Tremper High School, and I'm a pitcher for the baseball team. And I'm this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Well, Ethan and the Trojans currently lead the Southeast Conference standings, and they look forward to a strong push in the playoffs. We'll be right back.
So what's ahead on the sports calendar, you ask?
Well, the Brewers start a long stretch against American League teams. It begins with the Astros, who are in for 3 starting tomorrow. Thursday's an off day. Then they head down to Tampa Bay to take on the Rays.
Meanwhile, for the Admirals, the Central Division semis roll on. It's a must-win Game 3 for the Ads Wednesday night in Rockford. It's a best-of-5 series. If they can force a Game 4, it will be Friday, still in Rockford.
And they come back to Milwaukee on Sunday if they can get the series that far. And, of course, Sunday is Mother's Day.
That's
so
right.
That's a capper for this week for sure for so many folks out there. Thanks for joining us here this week on the Fox 6 Sports Blitz. We're all back to do it again next week. See you.